This is the 2024 BMW 230i xDrive, and in this video I'm going to cover the exterior, the interior, take it for a drive and see what it's like out on the road, as well as talking about the kind of fuel economy you can expect, and also the pricing and how it compares to the competition these days. And also huge thanks to #1 Cochran Ford of Butler County for providing me here with this vehicle to review for you guys today. So about the 230i, well, this is the lowest trim here. Obviously the M2 and the M240i got all the press and all the excitement. But the 230 is a really cool option, and especially in xDrive form, there's basically nothing that competes with it. And so this 2024, just 1 year old, really nice and fresh still, and looks really great with this M Sport package this one has as well. And I know that the styling for this generation that came out back in 2022 was a little controversial. Some people didn't love it. I think these days with BMW styling getting crazier and crazier, this having a normal size grille and having some crazy looks, I think actually has aged really well. Especially love this long hood you have. You had a longer wheelbase here for this Generation 2 series, 2 inches longer to be exact, and the whole vehicle overall is longer and wider than the last generation, and that's very obvious. It got a lot bigger. Also gained some weight, which I know some people weren't happy about, but again, these days, relatively speaking, also not too bad with the curb weight on these as well. But otherwise though, right up front there, you have these really nice headlights with the very cool like crystal DRL that kind of floats down through them. You have some active grille shutters there in that grille, so when it's parked it looks a little strange because it's all blocked off, but they do open up whenever you're up and running. And yeah, just a little bit of a sportier look here with a little lip you have for the M Sport package. You also have unique M Sport wheels that are 18 inches here, and you can see hiding behind them you get the M240i brakes. Now they've switched up this package over the years, so some years it was just M Sport, other years it was M Sport combined with dynamic handling package. Regardless, it's very easy to tell which cars have the big brakes and which ones don't. They're really nice brakes there hiding behind those wheels. And then coming down to the sides, just a nice silhouette, but again, just very long and just a really cool look. And then going out to the back there, you'll see some, again, unique taillights, but I think they have aged pretty well. And also this one, I like how you have the exhaust tips that are pronounced, but kind of tucked under there a little bit, and has a little bit of like a rear diffuser in a way there. And you also have the nice little lip spoiler on the back too, which gives it a sportier edge, especially with the red here with the black accents. It really pops and looks really cool. And so yeah, overall I think this is a vehicle that, especially these days, is really nice and shows how the design may have had some merit back then, because it has aged very well here. The interior of the 2024 2 Series is really nice. So 2023 got this new curved display. This being in 2024, we continue with basically no changes here. And then 2025 got a new version of iDrive 8.5, as well as a new steering wheel and some slight changes to the ambient lighting. But this 2024, very impressive still. This one also has the premium package, which makes it even nicer. But first thing, sitting down in these seats, you have some really great seats here in these really nicely bolstered. Doesn't have any kind of crazy adjustments other than memory, but you do have at least the adjustable thigh support, but still super nice seats. And yeah, if you don't need the adjustable lumbar, I think these seats will be completely fine. They're really nice with the bolstering. I like that they're perforated here for the, I believe this one has the Sense Tech. It's not the full leather or anything, but really nice seats. I really love them a lot. It'd be great for long trips, I think, especially with just the level of comfort you have here. Next though is the steering wheel, which is a heated steering wheel here in this one, and it has a little M badge here for the M Sport package, and it's a really great wheel. Great 9-3 grip with nice little thumb cutouts, big 10-2 notches, a little bit comical, but kind of fun, and a pretty thick rimmed wheel. And some people love it, some people hate it, but I think it's fine for this type of a vehicle, and I haven't grown to be too annoyed with it here so far. But I also love that there's just a few buttons on it, and that's refreshing with a zillion buttons on so many steering wheels these days. Moving on to the gauge cluster here, so that's the first part of this curved display, and that's a 12.3 inch cluster there, and it's really nice and high resolution, nice crisp graphics, and I like the customization. There's not a ton of customization, but I mean there's a decent amount. In the middle there you can change and have a few things, including like G meters and stuff, the map view, whatever you want in there. And I like that there's 3 different ways to show that information as well with the gauges there. And this one also, being the premium package, gives you the head-up display as well, which has a few different modes there for its display as well. And overall, just really nicely done, I think. Now moving over to the middle of the dashboard, that's even more impressive. That's a 14.9 inch touchscreen here, again in 2023 and newer, and it's really cool. Now you know, a few things take 2 taps still to get to. Like, for example, your heated seats, you got to go into the climate menu and then hit a button to turn it on. So, you know, it's not perfect. I think iDrive 8.5 did improve a few of these things to make some of that dead space here at the bottom actually be usable, so you can, you know, access some more things quickly. But this is still totally fine in my opinion, and it does have wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, so that's great. And, you know, going through radio stations, all that's nice and easy. And so, yeah, I have no complaints with that either. Coming down, you have just a volume knob, a couple other little buttons there, and then you have another array of buttons here behind your cup holders, including, you know, this shifter, which I wish there was an actual shifter. This little nub isn't very exciting, and having park just be a button is a little odd, but, you know, it's fine. Just for something like this, you'd hope for something a little sportier. But it is nice that you still have a controller wheel here and some button shortcuts, so if you don't want to get fingerprints all over the screen, you still have a non-touch way of interacting with it. You also have, ahead of that here, your 2 cup holders, a regular power outlet, a USB-A jack here. I believe 2025 might have gone all USB-C, but USB-A here for 2024. And also a little spot for your phone. I believe it's an NFC pad. It's not a Qi wireless charging pad, though, surprisingly, at least in this one, or I couldn't get my phone to charge on it if it is, but you know, a nice little rubberized space there nonetheless. And then coming back, you have the center armrest, which has some nice soft padding to it. And you open that up, and that's where you'll see your actual USB-C jack, as well as a nice size cubby there. You can fit, you know, a few knickknacks. And so, you know, for a vehicle like this, not too bad. You also have really great pockets in the doors that go way far back, and also a nice large bottle holder as well. And nice cool design on the doors here, like the little dimpling you have. And yeah, so I mean, overall, pretty premium with all the materials here on the doors and everywhere you look, really, aside from down by your knee. That's hard plastic still, and that's a frequent contact point, at least for me. And so I wish that was padded, but basically everything else in here is padded. So that's great. And you also have a larger than average moonroof for a vehicle like this, so that's a nice touch. And then the back seat here in this Generation 2 series actually was smaller than the back seat in the prior generation, which is kind of surprising with how much this vehicle grew and gained extra weight, and yet you have a worse back seat. So clearly all that extra length went to styling and not to actual interior practicality. But I'm 5'9", me sitting behind myself. I do actually fit with about 1 inch of legroom to spare. That's, I'd say, you know, on par with the muscle cars typically, maybe even a tiny bit better, but headroom is tight. That's the one thing that's not great. So again, me being 5'9", my head is basically, you know, grazing up against the roof there. So anyone taller than 5'9", forget it back there unless you want to be hunched over. But, you know, it is a usable back seat, though, and especially if you're just planning on taking kids along, things like that. It's going to be really great for that. They also even have their own air vents back there, and also another little pocket there in the middle, and also a fold-down center armrest with 2 cup holders put into it. Trunk space in the 2 Series also isn't amazing, but it's, you know, totally usable for a couple of suitcases. You know, for 2 people, you'll be totally fine with that, I think. There is nothing under the floor. There's no way to even access underneath the floor, which is kind of unusual. So, you know, no spare tire or anything back there. But for a vehicle like this, should be fine. It is bigger than something like a Z4 trunk, you know, things like that. So, you know, it's a little bit more practical. Those seats do fold down too. So if you want to have, you know, an extra large space and forget the back seats, you can do that too. But let's start up and go for a drive. The 2 Series here has the usual BMW key, which is actually a nice key. It's got just a few buttons there on it. I like how you have the little M thing there on the side, and just a nice small key. So pretty nice key, nice and light. But of course it is keyless access, keyless entry, and push button start. So you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it starts right up. All right, so setting off here in the BMW 230i xDrive. So the first thing you notice about this vehicle, I think the first thing I notice is that you have a pretty good amount of visibility, even though you have, you know, a very long hood there. This doesn't feel super big or anything, and feels very manageable. Obviously, it's still a small car, but just, you know, if you saw that long hood and thought it might be tricky to park, thankfully you do have park sensors and all that to help you out as well here, but it hasn't been too bad, at least in my experience here so far. It's also pretty nice and quiet in here. It's, you know, very luxury car appropriate. Feels very solid, and, you know, just very, very nice. And so we're gonna go ahead and put it up into the S1 drive mode here, as well as the actual sport mode. But S1 for the there's actually Sport Plus as well as Sport Individual, but I'm in the Sport Plus mode. And let's turn down onto this back road here and see how it accelerates. Here we go. Wow. nice and punchy. It's got a nice little sound. It's clearly, being helped out by the sound system, I think, a little bit, but you get a little blow-off sound, and actually that sounds really nice. I could use more exhaust note, but not bad. Yeah, this thing feels really punchy too. So this runs the B48 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. It does a very conservatively rated 255 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. But if anyone is familiar with how BMW rates their motors, this is absolutely doing more power than that. How much more, it's hard to say, but this thing being, over 3,600 pounds with all-wheel drive here, for the rear-wheel drive versions, they do about a 5.1 seconds 0 to 60. I actually wasn't able to find anyone that has actually tested the all-wheel drive version here, but yeah, it's really nice and punchy. And with the all-wheel drive system here, that of course gives you great all-weather traction. And we'll try out some manual shifts here. We're running a ZF 8-speed automatic, which is, one of the best typically. We'll see how it does. Yeah, very quick upshifts. Downshifts pretty quick. Nice tight corner here we're coming up to. Let's see about body roll. Oh, a little shift light there as you approach red line. That's fun. This is great. It's really smooth. Now, the only thing I'll say, and I think I've seen this elsewhere, and I agree immediately, the steering is a little numb feeling, especially for something like this. You're used to a little more feel. Even a Mustang EcoBoost, I'd argue, has more steering feel than this. I mean, it's nicely weighted, and I do like how it actually has variable steering here for the M Sport package. And I mean, it feels good. It's just that there's not enough communication with the front wheels. But other than that minor complaint, though, it's really good. And so here with this M Sport package, you do get a sport suspension, and again, like I said earlier, those bigger M240i brakes, which as we're coming up to some downhill portions here, we can try them out a little bit. And there's a little bit of a dead spot, and then they start to bite eventually, but they're not quite as touchy as BMW brakes often are. Now this car has 11,000 miles. Maybe they're just broken a little more than the typical BMW brakes that I try out. But nice tight corner again. First gear. All right. Wow, that's man. Okay, that back end, it still is playful because this is thankfully still a rear-wheel drive based system, unlike the BMW 2 Series Coupe, which is a front-wheel drive based system. This is, of course, rear-wheel drive based, just has that all-wheel drive helping you out there. But it still is tail happy, and that's kind of one of the big question marks I had with the all-wheel drive version is, does it kill a lot of the tail happy antics? And thankfully the answer is clearly no. It's happy to slide around on you a little bit there, and it is also exaggerated by the fact that the xDrive versions here actually do 225 wide tires all around. In the rear-wheel drive version, you'll go to 255s in the rear. And also, we just have these, I believe these are Pirelli P0 all-season tires, so not a grippy tire either. So that's part of why this feels extra slidey. I'm not complaining though. For one, it's easier and better for the winter, because I'm assuming you're buying the all-wheel drive because you probably want all-weather traction. Otherwise, save yourself money and weight and just go for the rear-wheel drive version. So I think 225s are going to be much better in the winter anyway than having to put 255 snow tires on the back of this. And also, this part of the road now is really rough. So this is about as bad as road noise is going to get. And it still is better than average. I would say, unfortunately, since there's no other luxury competitors in this segment that are two doors like this, really the only things I've recently experienced that I can compare this with are like Audi A3 and S3, and that's certainly louder inside than this is. And even Mercedes CLA is going to be noisier than this too. So yeah, really well done, I think, actually, as far as the refinement. I'm kind of impressed. This does feel like it's competing a class above, and I wasn't expecting it to be that refined either, so that's great. Another acceleration here, manual shifts. Yeah, it's great. Typical ZF 8-speed, really great. No complaints there whatsoever. I'm going to go ahead and pop it back into just the regular S mode, let it do its thing though. Now you also just have passive dampers. You don't have any kind of adaptive dampers. So that's sport individual modes. Not going to do a whole lot, just basically changing throttle response, steering, minor little things like that. But yeah, this thing, I'm really having a good time. I mean, this road's very fun, so that certainly helps. But it keeps up very nicely. You know, it's a willing dance partner here. Other things to note, you know, if you do want to have more power, 5.1 seconds 0 to 60 isn't enough for you. There is, again, that M240i version, which, again, rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive for both of those. And that version, you know, is like 382 horsepower. I think that's like a 3.6 seconds 0 to 60. I mean, that's like, you know, supercar kinds of numbers almost that you're getting out of, you know, just the humble little M240i. The M2 is amazing as well. I reviewed one of those a couple years ago. Very fantastic. That's the way you get the manual if you want a manual. Unfortunately, these are all automatic only here for these. And yeah, M2 is fantastic, but you know, with how overboard everything's gotten these days, I mean, you know, even with the M240i, do you need something faster than a 3.6 seconds 0 to 60 on the streets? You know, you get to a certain power point before you stop having as much fun because you can't wring out the motor, you can't exploit the car, everything just feels like a snooze. And I mean, not to say the M2 is a snooze, it's a fantastically fun car, but you know, if you don't have to have the fastest thing out there, I think going for these lower 2 Series are great. You save a bunch of money, and especially the 230 here, you know, still a really fun little daily driver. It's comfortable, but it feels sporty. It, you know, is sliding around on me there, having some fun, and yeah, just nothing, you know, that I think you're going to want to complain about, especially if you live in a place, again, where you just have some tight, windy roads. And now I took it out of the Sport Plus mode, just back in comfort mode for everything, just calming down, cruising here. And it's still really well behaved here too, you know, just on a main road, just cruising. We're going about 50 now. You know, a little bit of road noise here on this road in particular, but not too bad at all. And then you put on this Harman Kardon stereo, and it's a surround sound stereo, by the way, and you know, have some really good sound quality. And then, you know, you just cruise around in total comfort. I mean, the ride is really nice and smooth, and you know, just again makes a really nice daily driver even whenever you aren't trying to go fast. And I'm also happy to report that, you know, with this CF 8-speed being very well programmed, you know, it's really good at leaning on the turbo there a little bit, but then once you require more, it does downshift pretty quickly there, so I'm pretty happy with the performance of that. I did see some other reviews that were complaining about smoothness around town and how it's sometimes wasn't quick enough to respond. I haven't experienced that at all, and I've never really experienced that with any ZF. They're always very immediate with responding, in my opinion, and so I have no complaints with that either. It's totally smooth, always does what I want it to do, no issues whatsoever. So a really nice daily driver. And yeah, I'm really appreciating you do get a nice bit of turbo noise out of this. I also wasn't expecting that. I mean, I guess I should have, because I've always been impressed with the B48 and just how much fun this motor is. It's so underappreciated, I think, because, you know, it never got any love in like the Super 2.0, for example. But this motor is it's really great. I'm having a blast in this thing, and yeah, if you need just a fun daily driver, I won't say it again, but this is absolutely where I would stop. Again, you have the really better sounding motor with the M240i, so you can make an argument for that one as well, you know, for maximum aural pleasure. But, you know, as far as just a punchy, fun daily driver that can go in the snow, you know, this is really, again, in a class of one pretty much, and far more dynamic than its one actual competitor. If we're talking about two-door all-wheel drive stuff, you know, that's about the same price tag and roughly the same power. We just have the Dodge Challenger all-wheel drive versions that went out of production in 2023. But, you know, that was the only other thing here. There's going to be, you know, the new Charger 6-pack with all-wheel drive, but that starts at 50 grand and is, you know, an extra 1,000 pounds. So, you know, this is really the last game in town here as far as this goes. But it's not just the only choice, but it's a really good choice still as well. And yeah, I just really love this thing. And it's amazing that no one's really given the xDrive too much love. I've seen hardly any reviews for the xDrive version out there, but this is absolutely, if you live in a place that gets any kind of weather, yeah, this is really going to be a really awesome choice. And it's awesome it's available, and some people probably don't even realize it's available. Yeah, it's good. I mean, I certainly think you could put an exhaust on this. There's some room for improvement there. But yeah, and also, by the way, this is an 89-degree day, and this thing's still pulling like a freight train. You know, you get into boost weather, this thing's gonna feel even punchier and even better. So the fact that, you know, it's heat soaked, it's hot, and it still is pulling this hard is also a testament. These BMW motors, the turbo ones, are so good, and yeah, absolutely love it. And that's not even, you know, mentioning mods. You can mod these as well, and then, you know, go even crazier on the power if you want. But yeah, even from the factory here, this thing is really cool. So anyway, a couple of the last final things I mentioned here. First is fuel economy. So these are rated at 25 mpg city, 33 on the highway, and 28 combined. And that's for the all-wheel drive. You gain, I believe, about 1 to 2 mpg going for the rear-wheel drive version. And I know Car and Driver, in their highway test loop, they managed to get, I think, 38 mpg in a rear-wheel drive one at 75 miles per hour, no less. So, you know, that's another thing I've also observed, is that these BMW motors are more fuel efficient than they claim as well, and are just, again, it's amazing. So much power, so much efficiency, just such a great motor. And for anyone wondering about any of the safety equipment and technology you get here in these, you know, a lot of stuff does come standard, but some things were optional, like this still doesn't have adaptive cruise control. That is one area where, you know, something that's, you know, a nice daily driver, it'd be nice to have adaptive cruise. I believe that was an option you could get, but this one unfortunately doesn't have that option, which is part of why this steering wheel is, you know, nice and simple with you know, its whole setup. But you know, that was an option. You just have to, you know, look for the ones that have that stuff. And then the last thing to really mention here is the pricing and how it compares to the competition. So let's get into that. So this 2024 BMW 230i xDrive is listed at #1 Cochrane Ford of Butler for $37,998 with just 11,000 miles on it. A nice savings over the $52,000 you'd have to pay for a new one with all the same options. And if you're okay with higher miles, a non-M Sport one or one with less options, you can even get one in the low to mid 30s. If you're interested in this one, definitely reach out to #1 Cochrane and grab it before someone else does. Now, as far as other competitors go, there isn't really anything else if you want all-wheel drive in something this new. Challenger went away in 2023, but can be had for $10,000 less if you're fine with the extra 400 pounds and the worse handling that brings along with it. There's also stuff like the Infiniti Q60 that can be had with all-wheel drive that I think is very underrated if you're willing to go, you know, a few years older there. And you could also just go for stuff like an older BMW 4 Series with xDrive, or a Mercedes C-Class Coupe, or an Audi A5 Coupe, but those are all a class larger and heavier as a result. If you don't need all-wheel drive, you can get a comparable used 2024 Mustang EcoBoost for about $10,000 less as well, and those are surprisingly about the same weight as this 2 Series, and they do more power, but with a worse transmission in my opinion. The only others that are similar to this are the Supra 2.0, which is really rare and about $5,000 more expensive for a comparable one as a result. Plus, there's no back seat in that. It's a tighter cabin, but it is another B48 powered coupe. There's also the Z4 for about $5,000 more for a comparable one as well, if you'd like the B48 in convertible form. If you're trying to decide what car to buy and would like some help, I now offer one-on-one car advice calls on mattmoranmotoring.com as well. Yeah, this thing is really fun. So anyway, yeah, I think, you know, at the end of the day, if you've always wanted, you know, like an all-wheel drive BRZ, you've been begging for something like that, this is pretty much it. And this is the only thing that really offers that kind of a formula. And, you know, nice little step up in power with the turbo here. This is the turbo all-wheel drive BRZ I think a lot of people have been asking for and wanting. And, you know, in that kind of a context, I think this is a really fun vehicle. And, you know, even though, yes, these weigh like 3,600 pounds or so, I don't think that's bad at all. And just such a great car. And last acceleration here. Oh yeah, this thing is great. Such an awesome car. Highly recommend, especially this one in the red with the M Sport package. Really nice combo. Check it out at #1 Cochrane there if you want. But anyway, yeah, thank you all very much for watching. Huge thanks #1 Cochrane for providing me here with this car to review for you guys today. And yeah, let me know your thoughts on it in the comments below. Please leave a like and subscribe to keep these videos coming. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.